The feeling of being home was a concept Sergeant Isaiah Grant was still getting used to. He had been back in Dalton, Georgia, for 4 days, the dust of a foreign war still clinging to him like a second skin. His first and only stop had been Mama Rosa's house. Her embrace was the only shield he needed. Sitting on her porch as the sun bled out of the sky, Isaiah finally felt the tension in his shoulders begin to ease. For the first time in a year, he could just breathe. The next morning, he put on his dress uniform. It wasn't for show. It was a part of him. It was how Dalton knew him. The uniform gave the local kids a symbol of something solid and true, a duty he carried with pride. Around noon, he was driving his mom's old Ford sedan down Willow Creek Road toward Peterson's corner store. The bell on the door jingled, a sound untouched by the years. He grabbed a cold water and an ice cream sandwich, a simple taste of the life he'd been fighting for. Mr. Peterson greeted him with a hearty laugh. "Well, would you look at that? I thought you were still overseas keeping the world safe," the old man said, wiping down the counter. "They had to let me go, Mr. Peterson." Isaiah joked back, his voice easy. "Word got out my mom's cooking is a threat to national security." The old man chuckled. "Your mama comes in here every day for that sweet tea. Swears by for her bad knee." Isaiah just smiled, the simple moment wrapping around him like the familiar Georgia heat. But as he stepped outside, the comfort evaporated. Across the street, a pale, jittery woman stood by a dumpster, clutching her purse to her chest as if he was a mugger 100 yards away. Her eyes, narrowed and cold, followed his every move. Her phone was clutched low in her hand. A hidden weapon. Just another day, Isaiah thought, shaking his head. He never imagined her trembling fingers were already dialing 911. He had learned in combat that the most dangerous threat is the one you don't see coming. He barely closed his car door when the street erupted in a flash of red and blue. A police cruiser screeched to a halt right behind him, its siren dying with a pathetic yelp. Another swerved aggressively, blocking him from the front. His hands went to the steering wheel instinctively, open, still, non-threatening. His ice cream began to melt, completely forgotten. In his rear-view mirror, 2 officers emerged. The driver, a thick-set man named Miller, moved with an arrogant swagger, his hand already resting on his holstered weapon, as if daring the world to give him a reason. Isaiah's Ranger training took over. Asterisk, stay calm. Move deliberately. Give them no excuse. Asterisk, Officer Miller marched to the window and rapped the glass hard with his knuckle. He didn't ask for a license. He didn't ask a single question. He just barked an order. Out of the vehicle now. Isaiah looked at the man, his own composure a stark contrast to the officer's raw aggression. "Is there a problem, officer?" Miller's lip curled into a sneer. "Yeah, there's a problem. The problem is you. Now get out of the damn car before I pull you out." His eyes swept over the army dress uniform with undisguised contempt. He thought, asterisk, look at this guy. Thinks the costume makes him special. Asterisk. Isaiah opened the door slowly. His movements were measured, his hands always visible. This was his home, yet he felt the old familiar tension of being behind enemy lines. His military ID was clipped to his uniform. Impossible to miss. "I'm Sergeant Isaiah Grant," he stated, his voice a calm, solid anchor in the brewing storm. "United States Army Rangers." Miller squinted at the name tape on his uniform with deliberate ignorance. "Says here your name is Grant." He mispronounced it, dragging the name out like an insult. "And I don't give a damn what costume you're wearing. We got a call about a suspicious man causing trouble." "Causing trouble?" Isaiah repeated the ugly accusation hanging in the humid air. "Sir, I just bought a bottle of water at the store." "That's not what we heard," Miller snapped, stepping closer, crowding Isaiah's space. Before Isaiah could process the move, Miller grabbed his arm, spun him hard, and slammed him against the side of the car. The metal frame bit into his ribs. "You're going to learn some respect." Cold steel snapped around his wrist, cinched painfully tight. Click. Then the other wrist. Click. The cuffs were locked, their metallic chill a profound violation. Across the street, the woman who had made the call watched with a look of grim satisfaction. A small crowd was gathering. Jamal, a young mechanic from the local garage, stood frozen for a beat before his hands. Shaking with fury, raised his phone. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" Jamal yelled, his voice cracking. "That's Sergeant Grant. The man's a damn war hero." Miller shot him a venomous glare. "You better back off, kid, or you're next." He turned back to Isaiah, yanking him upright by the cuffs. "Now, as I was saying," he said, his voice low and menacing, "we'll get your little story straight down at the station." Isaiah stood firm, his gaze unwavering, his mind a whirlwind. Escalating this physically was a losing battle. The only weapon he had left was the truth. "My name is Sergeant Isaiah Grant," he repeated, his voice louder now, projecting across the street for all to hear. "My commanding officer is Colonel Harding at Fort Sterling. I suggest you make call." Miller just laughed, a short, ugly bark. "Oh, I'm sure your colonel is probably just waiting by the phone for you." But Jamal, refusing to be silenced, was already dialing. "This isn't right," he muttered, his thumb mashing the call button. He was calling the one man whose authority even a cop like Miller couldn't possibly ignore. What nobody on that street knew, least of all Officer Miller, was that 40 miles away at Fort Sterling, Colonel Harding was in his office, and his entire world was about to pivot on a single incoming phone call. Colonel Harding was mid-briefing, his attention split a dozen ways when his personal cell phone buzzed. It was an unknown number from the Dalton area code. He answered with a clipped, "Harding." "Colonel Harding? My name is Jamal. I work at the garage down the street from Sergeant Grant's mother. Sir, the Dalton PD has him in handcuffs outside Peterson's corner store. He's in his full dress uniform. He didn't do a thing, and they're treating him like a criminal." Colonel Harding sat bolt upright, his posture instantly turning to granite. "Did you say Sergeant Isaiah Grant?" "Yes, sir. He told them to call you, but they just laughed in his face." "Give me the exact address." "Now." The call ended. The colonel stood, his face a mask of cold fury. He turned to the young captain in his office. "Get me the dispatch supervisor at the Dalton Police Department. I want you to tell them that Colonel Harding is to be patched through to the unit currently detaining one of my rangers. Not in 60 seconds. Right now." Back on Willow Creek Road, Isaiah stood in cuffs. They hadn't read him his rights. They hadn't named a crime. By now, half a dozen phones were recording. A silent jury of witnesses. The woman who had made the call had vanished, melting back into the shadows she came from. Jamal stood his ground on the sidewalk. "I called his colonel," he shouted, making sure Miller heard every word. "He's calling your dispatch as we speak." Miller sneered. "Kid, you've got a big mouth. You really need to learn when to shut it." "No." Jamal shot back, his fear burned away by defiance. "You need to take those cuffs off a hero." Just then, the radio on the younger officer's shoulder crackled. A sharp, urgent voice cut through the static. "Unit 12, stand by. Priority transmission from Fort Sterling. Colonel Harding is on the line for your senior officer." Both cops froze. Miller's smug expression dissolved as if it were hit with acid. The blood drained from his face. He fumbled for his radio, his hand shaking just slightly. "This is Officer Miller. Patch him through." A moment of static, and then a voice came through the speaker. It was perfectly calm, controlled, and carried the weight of absolute, unquestionable authority. "This is Colonel Harding. To whom am I speaking?" Miller swallowed, his throat suddenly bone dry. "Officer Miller, Dalton PD." The colonel's voice didn't get louder, but it seemed to drop 20 degrees. "Officer Miller, you are currently detaining Sergeant Isaiah Grant, a decorated ranger under my command. He is not a person of interest. He is not under investigation. He is a war hero who returned to this country less than 96 hours ago. Unless you can cite the specific felony you personally witnessed him commit, you will remove those handcuffs immediately." A thick, heavy silence fell over the street. The entire world seemed to hold its breath. Miller stammered, his arrogance gone, replaced by a pathetic desperation. "Sir, we had a report of a—" "Your report is irrelevant." Colonel Harding's voice sliced through the radio like ice. "I deal in facts. Have you ever laid eyes on this ranger before in your life?" No, sir. Then you will release him. I am on my way. My ETA is 15 minutes. If Sergeant Grant is still in handcuffs when I arrive, I will personally ensure that your chief, the mayor, and every news station in the state understands exactly how the Dalton PD welcomes home its veterans. Are we clear? The radio went dead. Yes, sir. Miller mumbled to the empty air. The line clicked off. He turned to Isaiah, but his eyes couldn't meet the sergeant's steady, unwavering gaze. They darted everywhere else. The younger officer, looking terrified, scrambled for the handcuff key. Click, click. The cuffs fell away. Isaiah didn't say a word. He just rubbed his wrists, the angry red marks a testament to the officer's aggression. Every phone was still recording. Every eye was on Miller. No apology came. None was expected. The officer's public humiliation was louder than any words could ever be. Less than 10 minutes later, a black government sedan tore down the street and screeched to a halt. Colonel Harding stepped out, his own dress uniform immaculate. The rows of medals on his chest were a silent rebuke. He didn't slam the door, but his presence hit the street with the force of a shockwave. Miller and his partner stiffened, trying to look professional, but they just looked like children caught in a lie. Sergeant Grant, the colonel said, his voice a sharp crack of respect. Sir, Isaiah replied, a hint of relief finally entering his voice. Wasn't expecting to see you off base. Colonel Harding then fixed his gaze on the two officers. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the air. Which one of you made the decision to put a United States Army Ranger in handcuffs? Miller visibly flinched. He swallowed hard. That was me, sir. I was acting on a civilian report. Was he armed? The colonel shot back. No, sir. Was he threatening you? No, sir. Did he resist you in any way whatsoever? Miller just shook his head, his eyes glued to the pavement. No, sir. Then explain it to me, officer. The colonel's voice was dangerously low, each word dripping with contempt. Explain to me, to this crowd, and to every person who is about to see this video, what precise action made you believe a decorated soldier in full uniform who had already identified himself was such a threat that he needed to be restrained like a common felon? The question hung in the air, a public indictment. Miller shuffled his feet, his face turning a deep, blotchy red. All he could manage was a weak, pathetic whisper. It was a mistake, sir. No, Colonel Harding snapped, his voice like a whip crack. A mistake is a typo on a report. This was a choice you made based on prejudice, not procedure. This entire neighborhood just watched you assault a man who has risked his life for this country, all because he stopped to buy a bottle of water. Jamal stepped forward, holding up his phone. Sir, I've got the whole thing right here. The way he talked down to him, the way he shoved him against the car, it's already being sent around. The colonel gave Jamal a single, sharp nod of approval. Good. Make sure everyone sees it. He turned back to Isaiah and put a firm hand on his shoulder. Are you all right, Sergeant? Isaiah managed a tight smile. I'll be fine, sir. Just disappointed to be home. I wish I could say I was surprised. Harding said just as an unmarked sedan pulled up. A man in a suit, Deputy Chief Bishop, stepped out, his face pale and already sweating. He was clearly in damage control mode. Colonel, Bishop said, rushing over. I've seen the video. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable doesn't begin to cover it, Chief, Harding replied, his voice like ice. This is a disgrace, and you need to get ahead of it, because in 30 minutes, that video won't just be a local problem. It'll be national news, and your department will be the new poster child for police misconduct. We're launching an immediate internal review, Bishop said quickly. Both officers will be placed on administrative leave, effective immediately. Harding laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. Leave? You think a paid vacation is justice? That's not even close. He took a step toward the deputy chief, his presence dominating the space between them. Here's what's going to happen. You are going to fire this officer today. You are going to hold a press conference, and you are going to announce it. You will tell the public exactly what he did and exactly how you're going to cut the cancer out of your department. That is the only acceptable outcome. Deputy Chief Bishop stared speechless as the colonel's words hung in the air like a death sentence. Yes, sir, He finally choked out, already fumbling for his phone. By that evening, the video was a firestorm. It wasn't just a news story. It was a symbol of injustice that enraged people across the country. The Dalton Police Department's phone lines were overwhelmed. The pressure was unbearable. But the real justice wasn't on television. It happened in a small, sterile office at the downtown precinct. Miller sat opposite Deputy Chief Bishop, his face ashen. He had been called in an hour ago, his swagger gone, replaced by a raw, gnawing fear. "I've reviewed the unedited body cam footage, Miller," Bishop said, his voice flat and dead. "I've read 17 formal complaints filed against you in the last 2 years alone. But this time, there's a video, there's a colonel, and the entire country is watching." He slid 3 items across the polished desk: a resignation form, a pen, and a cardboard box. "You have 2 options," Bishop continued, his voice devoid of any sympathy. "You can sign this, walk out of here and disappear, or you can refuse, and I will terminate you for cause, which will ensure you can never be a police officer again anywhere. Then I will personally hand your entire file to the district attorney's office to consider criminal charges for assault." Miller stared at the paper, his hands trembling. His career, his authority, his very identity. It was all evaporating in this quiet, humiliating room. He looked up, searching for a lifeline, but found only the cold, hard stare of his superior. Slowly, he picked up the pen. "Your badge and your weapon," Bishop ordered, with a shaking hand. Miller unclipped the badge from his uniform. It felt weightless, a cheap piece of tin. He placed it on the desk. Then he unholstered his service weapon, cleared the chamber, and laid it beside the badge. The sound of the plastic hitting the wood was deafeningly final. He signed the paper, his signature a pathetic, illegible scrawl. His final act as a police officer was one of complete and utter surrender. That night, Isaiah sat on the porch with Mama Rose. The air was calm. The street was quiet. "They fired him," she said softly. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am," Isaiah replied, looking out at the peaceful dark. "They did." She put her hand on his. It was warm, steady. "You didn't start that fight, baby, but you sure as hell finished it." A car drove by, and a neighbor gave a small wave. Isaiah waved back. No cameras, no flashing lights, just the quiet satisfaction of a debt paid in full. Justice didn't always need to shout. Sometimes it was as simple and as powerful as a corrupt man being forced to hand over his badge.